Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. By the time you watch this video, of course, it will be Boxing Day. So you will all have had Christmas, and I hope that it was a joyful one for you, that you had a lovely day and that everybody's well, healthy, happy, and sound, and all the rest of it, and that you're actually all relaxing today. For today, we're going to be talking about the Crystal Carnelian. Now, when it comes to Carnelian, this is one of my new favourites, okay? I was never super excited by it in the past, but I've been using it a lot lately because, of course, I'm doing these videos and trying to create content for the channel. And, of course, Carnelian is very closely linked with anything to do with creativity, anything artistic, anything such as I'm doing here. It's got an amazing energy with it. But before we do that, of course, as always, I want to thank everybody who has chosen to take the time out of their day to watch the video, to become part of my life journey, if you like. And I invite everybody to speak to whatever their experiences are, or to ask questions. If they haven't used a crystal, feel free to say, well, you know what, or just ask any questions that might come to mind. I can't think of any at the moment. If I could, I think I've tried to answer most of them in this video, or the videos that I do. Now, if you're new to the channel, or even if you're a returning visitor, just a reminder, I always put timing chapters into the description, and this is so that you can jump to the areas of interest for you, or because I tend to make long videos, so that you can stop and start and come back to them and pick up where you left off and find them with ease. Now, of course, whenever we creators load a video, we're always out there plugging, please subscribe, all of that kind of stuff. Well, look, I say subscribe would be helpful if you wanted to. Click the little bell to get notified might not be appealing to you, because I do load a lot of content. But definitely, if you could write a comment on underneath the video, just saying g'day, say hello, let me know where you're from, and all those comments will actually help me out to get me on the radar, I guess, of YouTube with the logarithms or algorithms or whatever they're called. Goodness me. Oh, sometimes I amaze myself with my capacity to distort the English language, which is my home language, my native mother tongue, as they say. But anyway, look, before we get into it, once again, just thank you very much. Now let's talk about Carnelian. So when we talk about Carnelian, I've gone for this image here of a tumbled stone for reasons that will become obvious. It's actually orange, and I think over the years there's a couple of colours that I wouldn't go as far as saying have been repelling to me, but they're ones that I haven't been attracted to, and I haven't felt the need to actually buy them. And red and orange crystals are ones that I'm not super drawn to most of the time, and this is why I guess I'm a bit of a late bloomer where Carnelian is concerned. I've always had pieces of it in my collection because it's got metaphysical properties that I will use at different times, but as a personal one for wear, it's only been a crystal that I've started wearing more recently. But anyway, as you can see here in this image, there is a range of shades of orange, and sometimes you can see people with bracelets on or pendants that are this very light shade of orange at the top here, and then going further down to the second layer where you've got brighter shades of orange. And the little brown bit that I see at the bottom of this particular tumbled stone, I can't remember what they actually call that part of the rock, but I would call it the crust, okay? That's the bit that generally is on the outside of the stone, and once they start doing the tumbling and the cleaning process, a lot of that brown comes off. So it's not actually the true carnelian colour, it's just part of, I suppose, the real gem enthusiastic type of people would call that bit a flaw in the actual stone. One of the most common crystals for carnelian to be confused with is actually what's called banded agate, and I've got photos of that in a moment. You'll be able to see why people get confused. But if it's carnelian that you're looking for, then after this video, you will be able to identify it, you'll be able to pick it, and you'll know when it's mislabelled, okay? It is confused with other crystals as well, but I'll also help you to differentiate there too. So, interestingly, when it comes to the zodiac, I've always said in all the videos, it really doesn't matter what star sign you are. If you feel drawn or attracted to a specific crystal, then that's the crystal for you. It doesn't matter whether it's carnelian or something else. But where basically the information is that carnelian is more suited to the Leo, the Virgo, and the Aries, which once again is a little bit of a revelation. I find interesting that it's taken me this long to get attracted to it, because I'm actually a Leo Virgo cusp, and it's not a crystal that I've really been drawn to in the past, as I've said. The interest, I guess, with that is that I suppose in the past what it is because I've actually had the fire aspect in my personality has been quite strong, a lot of passion, a lot of enthusiasm about life. I actually didn't need the qualities of the carnelian because I had them internally. But I guess now that I'm stepping into the later stages of my life, I don't have the same levels of passion that I used to have. So perhaps that's why I am so attracted to carnelian at this point in time. As far as other star signs go, the Cancers and the Capricorns, they might find it a little bit too intense for them. This is probably because Cancers are quite sensitive anyway. And as far as the Capricorns go, they're very, very earthy, very work focused, and a lot of them tend to be workaholics anyway. And to perhaps actually to charge up their orange chakra is unnecessary because they will be really well motivated as well. So from an overview or summary point of the benefits, the metaphysical benefits of carnelian, we are looking at a huge range of them actually, but as always I stagger it out. But from an overview perspective, it's certainly considered to be a stone of creativity, being able to convert anger to positive passion. And this is where it's associated with anything to do with art and creativity, is because the idea is that you get this passion, which is this really invigorating energy. It's this, because anger actually is not negative unless a person behaves or responds to their anger negatively. If somebody is an angry person and they can grab that anger and channel it into an artwork or whatever, they can be really quite fabulous artists. So this is why we say that, passion is important, especially if we're creative type people and we're trying to get something completed. And creativity doesn't just have to be about the arts. It can be people that like to have a beautiful garden. That's another way of expressing creativity. It can be cooking or baking or whatever. It's whatever makes the heart feel good. And this is that, I feel angry, I'll go make something. Instead of reacting, I'm going to go and make something. So anyway, other benefits from an overview is that it's actually a cleanser of other crystals. In my experience, you have to use, excuse me while I have a cough. In my experience of using carnelian to cleanse other crystals, you use it with another crystal as well. So, for instance, I've got some tourmaline in schist that I usually have in an environmental area, and I will leave a little tumblestone of carnelian on that with a tumblestone of amethyst or an amethyst point and a little bit of selenite on top of that, so that it is being permanently cleansed. Once again, I said it's got a range of healing attributes. It's got a very positive, warm, joyous, optimistic energy about it. So it does build happiness and enthusiasm for life if people have become a little bit worn down and run down. In fact, I guess for everybody who has been struggling throughout 2024, as they come into 2025, carnelian is probably a good crystal for them to start to get to know, to get in their collection and maybe wear as a pendant. So this particular image here, this is a really good example of carnelian. If you found a rock and you cut a slice into it, like you're slicing up a sausage or whatever, you've got that layer there and you can actually see if you were to hold the slice up to the sun or to the light, you would be able to see patterns like this. For example, this is actually a really pretty piece of carnelian, so I don't think too many of us would find carnelian that looks like this. But for a conversational piece, yes, you could hold that up to the light. You would see all these little layers and swirls of colours. You can see here when you look at this image that it has got the really light orange colours, you've got the greater depths, and you can see also that within the swirls that there is also a brownie type colour as well. So it's not just orange. You can get carnelian in a range of orange hues, shall we say. But that reddish brown colour, it would be reddish brown. It's not brown brown. That is where there's a lot of confusion and mislabeling of carnelian when it comes to retailing it. Now, the other thing is too, as far as its hardness goes and its durability, it's 6.5 to 7 on the hardness scale. So it can tolerate a fair amount of things, or activities, shall we say, if you drop it on the floor. I mean, I've not had my carnelian break, but as I said, I'm new to using it. I haven't actually been that kind of person that tucks a carnelian tumble into my bra and then drops it on the floor. So that's not been something that I've tested it for. But as a rule, it's reasonably tolerant. I've got a pendant in the mail. It's just really slow coming to me. So the other thing that you might not be aware of, I wasn't until I started doing my research, is that carnelian is actually often called cornelian, replacing the A with an O. I have no idea why, but you will often find carnelian in association, and what this means is basically in the same mining places, if you like, as quartz and jasper and other forms of chalcedony, because it is actually chalcedony. The major mining locations around the world, and there's a lot of them, it's not rare, include places like Brazil. Brazil's a significant producer of carnelian, especially from the Rio Grande area. And what else have I got? The Brazilian carnelian, just a bit of a tip here, is known more for its vibrant red and orange colours, whereas India, the carnelian that comes out of India, tends to have more of the reddish brown hues and the orange as well. So I guess the best way to explain it is the stuff out of India, which is actually the one that I've got coming and probably why it's so delayed, is that darker brownie type colour. And I'm really looking forward to having it. Madagascar carnelian is sought after apparently because of its red and the deep orange colours. So work that out by looking at it. What else? Uruguay has more of the bands. So on a guess, I imagine this photo here is probably of a piece out of Uruguay. I mean, I'm pretty sure we get it here in Australia as well, but I don't know enough about the Australian carnelian that we've got. Apparently in the US, it's more of a light orange to a deep red colour. So just a little bit of information there for you. So obviously, for some buying tips for you, I actually went and did a bit of Googling and searching, trying to find different examples of what carnelian looks like to actually help you identify it when, especially if you're buying online, because this is where the trouble comes in. Now, I am not the only person, I'm sure, well, obviously other people must be doing it because these people are able to sell the product that they sell online. But what commonly occurs is that people think they're buying carnelian and they're actually being sold banded agate. So basically, this is these images here. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we've got 4 examples of how carnelian is used and what it looks like. On the right-hand side, though, I've got an example of the sphere of banded agate where it actually is, carnelian is inside of that sphere, which is why I've put the arrow on it. You can get banded agate with a really good line of carnelian in it. But if you look over at the smaller palm stone here, that's just banded agate. And this is one of the reasons why I've got these images up, so that you can actually tell when they're creating these rocks, you can understand how it is that this small tumbled on the right, or palm stone, I think it is. I grabbed that. It was being sold as carnelian, just so you know. And I thought, no, this has to go up so that people can see this is not carnelian. This is part of banded agate, and it would have been part of a much bigger rock, if you like, and it would have had some carnelian in the middle of it, no doubt, probably like this sphere here. And they've taken the carnelian out and they've actually done whatever it is they want to do with the carnelian that was in the center. But then instead of selling the external part, they've just made it smaller, and just given it the name of carnelian when it's actually banded agate. But if I want to summarize the difference between banded agate and carnelian, the takeaway really is that red agate is a red color agate, and it's a part of a banded chalcedony, while carnelian is solid red-orange chalcedony without any banding. So you should be able to tell the difference going forward. If you buy a piece of carnelian and it's got a band or a stripe or a piece of white in it, you just bought banded agate, okay? Another crystal that it becomes confused with quite regularly is sard. Now, sard is a deep-coloured reddish-brown stone. It's also a variety of chalcedony quartz, and it is a relative of the gemstone carnelian. But sard is often compared to carnelian, and I'm not even sure how to pronounce that, sardonyx. Okay, so sard and sardonyx are different crystals. I've got some images. So hopefully these images make it very clear to you what the difference is. And you can see when you're looking at them why it's easy for carnelian to be mixed up with sardonyx. You can't see quite so easily with this how it's mixed up with sard. But when my pendant arrives, I will take a photograph of it and I'll load it here on one of the videos, probably on the Yarning on Sunday video. And this is because what I believe that I'm getting, and this is one of these exercises in online buying, what I believe that's on its way to me is actually one of the orange, reddish, deeper type colours of carnelian. It's actually unusual for me. As I said, I'm not particularly drawn to carnelian a lot of the time, but for some reason I was actually really drawn to the photographs of this pendant. Now, I can understand why people would get sard confused with carnelian based on the type of carnelian that I'm getting, but I will know when it arrives, because the brownish type carnelian, as long as the colours are doing justice to the images on your phone or whatever it is that you're watching this video with, this particular sard, when you look at it, it looks brown. You know, it's obviously got a brown colour to it. When we're talking about carnelian, there's like a red that runs through that brown. I actually just realised maybe there's a reason underlying why I'm going for that particular shade, and that is because I grew up in an area where the dirt, the local landscape, was actually this really brilliant reddish brown colour. So anyway, I shall let you know. I think also, before I do that, I'm going to be talking about the metaphysical healing properties in a moment. And I would say that when we talk about the different shades of the carnelian, and we associate it with the metaphysical properties, that probably the lighter the yellow, the more artistic and creative aspects are involved, or the heightened aspects of creativity are involved with the brighter yellows, the yellow orange type color, okay? Because you can see when you looked at the carnelian layers that you have almost a yellow orange, and then it goes down to the darker colours. Anyway, I'm going off on a waffle. Where I'm going with it is actually to say, look, I think the brown types of carnelian are also more about grounding and base connection, shall we say, base chakra. So for me, because I'm doing a lot of activity with the creativity aspects, there's a risk of me becoming too off with the fairies. You know what I mean? In fact, I had a bit of an incident yesterday. Let's not go into that too much, but I was very distracted. I was off with the fairies and I did something. Actually, to be quite honest, I started a fire in the kitchen by accident. It wasn't a big one. I was onto it very quick, but it was clear to me that actually I had become off with the fairies and I needed to spend some more time grounding. And this is why we actually need to ground regularly, especially if we're doing high energy work. And I think for me, it's the carnelian with the brownish colours that I need to be wearing and working with if I'm going to be doing a lot of online content. So, from a metaphysical perspective in regard to energy and the spiritual aspects of the crystal, shall we say, it's I find it to be interesting. Okay, so I already mentioned the fact that you can clear negativity from other crystals by using the carnelian. That's not how I tend to use it, except for that one block that I've got, which is that tourmaline schist. Beautiful crystal, actually. But I keep a carnelian tumble on that one at all times because the tourmaline schist actually acts as a soaker of negative energy and that kind of stuff. And we don't want that sitting around in the area, shall we say. It's good for actually, I'll talk about that another day because that's tourmaline schist. But yes, when I do that, when I use carnelian for cleansing of other crystals, I do put it with the amethyst. I will put a little piece of selenite there for the pair of them. So you would, if you had something like what I've got, which is the tourmaline in and schist, well, of course, the orange helps to the carnelian helps to actually stabilize the environment. So you could have like a great big carnelian obelisk or even a sphere or whatever. If you've got a turbulent home environment, you could put that out as an ornament, and that would help to balance just the energy that's around you. It's been used culturally for many years as part of, I think, being a protector as well. So I would say potentially protecting a person. If you go into the Asian countries, quite often they will wear them on their wrists. And so I would imagine that's about protecting them against picking up negative energies and keeping joy and optimism and warmth in their personal aura, if you like. So not only when we talk about carnelian being, goodness me, I'm stumbling over my words this morning. Sorry about that. I should just say, and when we're talking about the rock, the orange one, but no, when we're talking about carnelian, it does have this stone of creativity aspect because it doesn't just actually help you to do your artistic pursuits. If you've got any latent talents, it will actually help you to wake up to them, because a lot of people will turn around and go, oh no, I'm not artistic, I can't do X or Y, I don't draw. Oh no, but I do go out into the shed and I bang a few pieces of wood together and I make little things. I've got my projects, I work on cars, for example. This is guys, well, that's their creativity coming out, that's their outlet. I mean, if we're not into cars, we might turn around and go like, oh, how boring. That's me. Sorry, I'm not really a car person. But a lot of guys will actually repress down that artistic aspect of themselves. So I would say that they exhibit their artistic and creative sides in practical ways, and that is perfectly fine as well. So, where I'm going with this is that carnelian can help to wake up. What are your talents? Are they working with cars? Are they working in the garden? Are they working with plants and doing plant propagation? Are they working with cars and modifying the engines? Stuff like that. These are all ways of people pushing past their own boundaries and limitations. And it's a form of personal expression, talking or just identifying aspects of who and what they are. Now, of course, the other thing that people are going to be interested in is the fact that we can use it for manifestation, and we can use carnelian to this purpose to manifest across all areas. It can be part of that crystal toolbox that you've got. And the other big one is that it can assist with past life exploration. If you're wanting to know about your past life and get conscious recall, one of the big stumbling blockers actually for people being able to do this is because they're frightened of what might come up. Well, I think for me, the way I interpret the energy of Carnelian, because it brings in these positive and optimistic things, it really does help to address fear. So if you can let go of fear, and you need to be able to let go, everybody needs to be able to let go of fear, at least temporarily, to be able to do certain activities, and if you're too frightened to walk down the pathway to your past life to have a look and come home, then of course you've got to get over that fear to be able to take the walk. You've got to open the door, and this is what Carnelian will offer you. So from a physical healing perspective, as always, I've got to put this disclaimer up here, and I certainly am not going to be making any claims personally that I can wear Carnelian to cure cancer or whatever, anything like this. Okay, these are things that I have put together on a list where people have said, based on their experiences, knowledge, or understanding, people may, with these conditions, might find benefit from wearing Carnelian now, or wearing a crystal. Now, of course, one of the things I say is I don't know why something will work for one person and not for another. So, I would not at any time encourage a person to step away from receiving mainstream general health from an expert through the mainstream evidence-based medical treatments, shall we say. But none of these, if you've got any of these conditions, using crystals is not going to do any harm. Okay, that's the whole thing. If you use crystals alongside your current treatment and medical plan, there is no conflict. So now let's talk about the claims of what Carnelian can help with. In the first instance, at the top of the list, we've got allergies. Well, I've got to say, to be honest, I'd never heard of any of this before, but apparently if you've got pollen allergies, you would wear the Carnelian as a pendant. Apparently it's got the qualities of cleansing and purifying blood. If you've had cancer or going through cancer treatment, it's supposed to promote the recovery, ease of recovery. I've always known that Carnelian was supposed to be beneficial to reproductive organs, and if there were fertility issues. Being good for colds and flus is not something that I was aware of, but I can understand it. There's also emotional benefits. We'll talk about those in a moment. And it's supposed to support good overall bladder function and health. The reason I've held off about talking about these ones of neuralgia and lower back problems is, if you watched one of my more recent videos, I was suffering the other night, probably about 2 weeks ago now. And what I had done was I'd worked too much at the desk with poor posture, and my skeleton had gone out of alignment in the neck area, we may as well say, and I knew, I could tell that a nerve was being pinched in my neck, and I was trying to do all sorts of exercises to unpinch it, shall we say. Anyway, suffice to say, look, long story short, that was actually when I started wearing the Carnelian, because I thought, what could I do for this? I need to put the old saying, money where the mouth is, and give it a shot. I'm writing all this stuff about crystals. Have I got something in my collection today that is beneficial towards pain? Well, actually, Carnelian is. And by the way, that's what prompted me to actually order this Carnelian online that I'm waiting to arrive. So I should have mentioned actually that I ended up buying, the reason I ordered this Carnelian pendant was actually because I was so impressed. It was within about half an hour of putting it on that I actually managed to get pain relief, shall we say. So, we could turn around, if we're trying to be open-minded about these things, and just say, well, is that a coincidence? Or does Carnelian actually have magical powers? Well, I prefer to believe that Carnelian's got magical powers, hence I decided to buy a pendant. Anyway, now we can take a look at what the benefits are for the emotional and the mind, the emotional state rather, and the mind. So it's very good for people who are absent-minded, confused and unfocused. Oh dear, I think I might have needed that yesterday when I almost burned the house down. It grounds the energies, especially of manifestation, onto the physical plane. It converts this anger and any depressive type symptoms to positive attitudes enthused with, passion. It helps to build your belief in yourself and your ability, if you've got a lot of problems, to be able to rise above these problems. So people that have been experiencing emotions of, say, gloom and despondency, like life's all too hard, if they're becoming super irritated, it provides support to them. And also, I guess this is where it helps with the manifestation process as well, is because it supports concentrating, and to be able to hold that focus of attention, shall we say, with these artistic pursuits. It certainly does, based on my experiences, stimulate a deeper love and appreciation for beauty and the gifts of the earth. I thought that I was appreciative, okay, but apparently I'd become complacent of my natural environment, of being able to sit in the garden and observe the birds and all the rest of it. But it kind of opens the eyes and we see with fresh eyes again. So it's because of this, I guess, that it supports optimism, and it does enable a person to act more spontaneously, I would say. Um, Sometimes we become so inhibited because we're concerned about what other people might think or say. And especially in this world today, depending on where we're living, where we've really got to police even our thoughts a lot of the time. Well, that's not so bad, because what we think, we actually create energy with thought anyway. And that's a whole story, actually. That's a whole different pathways. I need to do a video on that, actually, about how when we think something, that's going to interfere with manifestation in either positive ways or negative ways, because you can be doing all the actions towards a positive manifestation, but if you're having negative thoughts about it, it's actually going to act as a block. So if you're thinking, oh, well, it might happen or whatever, that's going to block it. So I guess there again is another way, if I can speak, how Carnelian benefits the person and the manifestation process, because it does transform this negative type thinking and attitude through to positive, optimistic thoughts. So this is how it feeds empowerment as well. I'm sort of in two minds here as to whether or not to just leave this slide and stop talking about it and just let you read it go, trauma and abuse, it heals. But it just sounds so generic. I think it's really important actually for people to understand how it is that it heals trauma, or the potential for healing trauma. Okay, because a lot of the time, when people have been through trauma, that pain and suffering becomes internalized. It becomes repressed. It's kind of like slamming the lid down on Pandora's box, because it's too hard to think about. If they start thinking about it, it's usually hurt that's been done to them. This is with trauma, okay? And with abuse. So they carry this energy of grievance and resistance to their emotions in their aura. So what the Carnelian will do is actually support them to release in healthy ways. And that might be drip, 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 but they've got to get it out, okay? Because if they don't get it out, it stays inside and basically poisons their whole quality of life. And this is where that creative expression comes in. Okay, so I'm just looking at my notes here that, as this release of these really deep, dark emotions occur, and then there's this space. It's like having that cup. You pour the poison out, you fill it up with new stuff, or a water body or whatever, a lake or a pond or whatever, that where you've got a filter system. So you're getting the muck out and you're creating the space for the new. Now, if people have got grievances, because a lot of the time, as I said, trauma and abuse, something has been done to a person, and it's understandable that people are angry towards those people, because it's normally pretty significant if they're carrying it in their aura. But the key to their health and well-being lies in being able to forgive. And this is also what Carnelian will encourage. Just a reminder, forgiving doesn't mean that what a person has done is okay. It doesn't mean that you have to go and put yourself back in the shark pool again and swim with the same sharks. It just means respecting and acknowledging that, okay, that was a learning experience. You've grown from it. You don't need a rerun. You learned what you needed to know. The other one that I find interesting that is associated with Carnelian is this idea of criticism. Apparently, it supports being receptive to criticism. Because let's be real, all of us are works in progress. We're all growing and developing at all times. And sometimes other people won't like what they see and they'll be clear or comfortable with actually expressing it. Now, that can be hurtful for most of us a lot of the time. If somebody says something that's negative and negatively critical, depending on who you are and how sensitive you are, you might go home and cry into your cups about it and all the rest of it. Well, that's being non-receptive of criticism. However, if you're a healthy person, you'll hear the criticism, and one of the key responses that I have learned to that is turn around and say, well, look, thank you for sharing. Thank you for your information. And I will certainly reflect upon your words, and that reflection can be going home and thinking, well, actually, upon reflection, I've decided I'm happy with who I am. You don't need to go back and tell them. I'm happy with who I am, and I've got no intention of changing that aspect of myself because that's part of my self-love. And in fact, I realise now, upon reflection, that person was transferring and projecting their issues. So when they said you needed to change, they were probably saying, I need you to change. The unspoken words, I need you to do X and Y because this is making me uncomfortable. That would be a whole story about emotional responsibility. We'll let that go for now. Hopefully I've given you something there to help you with. So when it comes to the chakras, clearly the orange chakra is the colour related to Carnelian. But because there is this release of fear and all the rest of it, it is most definitely associated with Carnelian, that being able to feel safe, to be comfortable expressing needs. Okay, that's base chakra stuff. And then, of course, it brings in components of the yellow chakra, the trust factor as well. So we've got the three chakras here that it is more specifically related to because it's empowering. And this is what I was saying when it comes to the colours or the shades of the Carnelian. I think if it's a lighter, this is just my belief, if it's a lighter shade of orange, it's going to be more about that creative expression. And if it's got the darker colours coming in, if it's the reddy browny one, then it's more likely to be focused on the grounding aspects and dealing with the reality, shall we say. So if we were to apply that to my life and what I was saying earlier, that I've had a bit of an incident this week because I'm ungrounded, I'm so focused on the manifestation, if you like, and the creative aspect of what I'm doing at the moment, I haven't actually been particularly grounded and practical. And in fact, this demonstrates, just so you know, this actually, when I say demonstrates, it manifests. We can see it when we reflect back. So to put this into perspective, what happened yesterday actually was I brought the shopping in and I've got a gas stove and I had a tea towel lying across it that I'd actually used to wipe down. I'd used some chemical actually to clean down the bench, and I wiped down the bench afterwards, and I've only got a small kitchen space, and I'd put the towel, you're all going to have a heart attack and go like, oh my goodness me, and this is a true story, I'm putting my hand up to this. So I have put the tea towel over the gas stove, if you don't mind. I've come in with the shopping, and instead of being practical and looking at the bench space and thinking, I'll just move that out the way and I'll lift the shopping up here, I lifted the shopping up and put it onto the gas stove. Now, I didn't even hear the clicking because it's got that autopilot. What happens is I have felt the heat, actually, before I've noticed anything else. And I've felt the heat coming from the stove, thinking, and what's that burning smell? Well, oh my goodness me, the fire had started. But of course, because I was right there and felt it straight away, I was able to easily get it into the sink, turn the tap on. I actually had to turn the tap on to put the fire out. Now, that's being ungrounded. Okay, the bottom line is I actually had been doing work on stuff, on basically, without going into it, I had been working on my creativity and I had become distracted. I realised I needed to put the fridge stuff into the fridge. And so I've got up and done my activities, but I haven't actually been grounded. So for me, if I'm going to be working and pursuing and trying to manifest and be creative, I need to make sure that I'm still grounded. So this is why I think I've ended up going for the Carnelian that I have. I just wish it would hurry up and arrive. Few delays with the Christmas post. But anyway, hopefully I've explained that to you well. So, when it comes to suitable uses for Carnelian, of course, there's a range of ways we can use them. I've discussed that throughout the video. But if you're jumping from one slide to the next, obviously, to clear other crystals, you could place it on the actual crystal that you're trying to clear, usually a cluster, by the way, and energetically recharging it if you like. You can also, of course, hold it when you're meditating. You've seen that there's obelisks and towers and spheres. You can have them all carved into that kind of thing. You can have them as polished tumbled stones, but most people prefer to have them as a jewellery item and to be able to wear it. Certainly I do, because then I can interchange it at the moment. And that's what I've done with this image here is I've actually shown you in this particular image the different colours and hues of Carnelian. So the pendant that I'm ordering and waiting to arrive is very similar to the image that's down the bottom on the right. It's got this reddish brown colour to it, and definitely not sard. The bracelet, that's another good way of using Carnelian. As it happens, I have some Carnelian bracelets, and these are the ones that I said I ordered, and I've got a little bit of white on them, or a little bit of clear, which shows me that it's not red jasper, but it's definitely not the best quality Carnelian. The best quality Carnelian, of course, is going to be where you don't have any interruptions with whatever shade of orange that you're going for, whether it's the reddish brown or almost that orange juice colour of the tumbled stone. You know, it's a very pretty colour. We did see also in one of those images I showed you that they're often used as not just palm stones, but for meditation and that kind of thing, but where they've got the etchings on them. Are they called thumb stones or whatever? They're quite an interesting little shape, and they've put Reiki symbols on them and things like that. I question the need to put symbols onto the crystal itself. I prefer to actually just have it raw, but different strokes for different folks. If they weren't selling, they wouldn't make them. Anyway, that's it really for that. So as always, I've created some affirmations here for you, basically to use, and you could use them in their current state, or you could actually develop them to be something that's more suitable to your own personal life experience. And of course, when it comes to affirmations, it's best that you use your own words anyway. But you will see, hopefully, that I have rule of thumb. You start an affirmation with I am, and you finish it with I am. And it's always a short, brief sentence because you're making a statement to the universe. And the other thing is, of course, you can do invocations and that kind of thing. Always best to finish an invocation with gratitude. What else can I say? Just basically, if you were going to use it for healing purposes, what I would be inclined to do is, let's say before I head out the door, if I've decided that I'm picking one or two of these affirmations to work with on a daily basis, I would then probably hold the crystal in my left hand and make these affirmations at least once a day, as I go through this transition of change, if you like. So, if you're new to the channel, you may not understand what I mean by messenger or oracle of the crystal. And this is because I have what I call a crystal lucky dip. And generally, when I provide face to face services at the very least, when I deliver online or distance services, I will put my hand into a lucky dip for people anyway. And so basically, if they pulled out Carnelian, this would be the message that I would be giving to them, or along the lines of this. Because, of course, everything's contextual. It could be a case of saying, you know what, actually, I understand, or the message of this crystal is, we know that you've had pain, we know you've been hurt. The important part is to actually take on board lessons learned, practice the art of forgiveness, and convert that anger and passion that you've got into something positive. A prime example, actually, of this if somebody was a Scorpio, for example, and I haven't discussed this, part of the pathway for a Scorpio is actually to learn how to harness healing energy and to be able to be of service as a healing vessel towards other people, if you like. And this is because when we're actually directing healing energy, we're pulling the Kundalini energy through, which is based in the, obviously, right down at the base of the spine. But when we talk about passion, sexual energy, dare I say the word, sexual energy is passion, anger is passion. Passion can be positive or negative in itself, and this is the creative element as well, how we use and direct that energy. So if somebody was very, shall we say, I'm trying to think of the word because of YouTube censorship. Let's say somebody was very overactive as far as intimate relationships went, or even within their current relationship, if they're the kind of person that says, oh, I need it 4 times a day or whatever, maybe there's a better way you can use that energy. Perhaps we need to channel that into something other than short-term gratification, shall we say. That's just one message. As I say, it's all contextual. For another person, it might be, look, it's about converting this pain and suffering into something artistic or creative and directing them towards an artistic pursuit. And quite often when we have this, if the Carnelian jumps out the box, is how I say it, then quite often that person's got latent talents that they actually haven't worked with, and you can speak with them and say, look, this is saying, I'm getting confirmation here that you're actually quite creative and artistic, but that you're not using your gifts. And they'll go, no, I'm not. And then you turn around and you say to them, well, I'm getting indications that you are, and they're actually showing me that, when I say they, the guides are showing me that actually you do a lot of baking or you do X and Y. And they'll say, oh, no, I used to, but I don't now, or whatever. Well, they're saying get back into it because that's part of your creative expression, and that becomes a release. And the other thing is too, another message might be, we'll stop judging people, because actually when we judge a person for right or wrong, it's through that judgment that we start to take offense at what a person might do when we perceive they've done something wrong. So that's about perception as well. And the other thing too is just be grateful for the blessings that you receive. So when it comes to crystal care, obviously Carnelian is a bit hardy. It's not one that actually is scratched easily by other crystals. Now, I don't know what this particular, I would call that a log is, that these crystals are sitting on, but that's what my selenite looks like, because I've got selenite logs and I place my crystals on top of the selenite log to actually clear, cleanse and recharge them. But other methods that you might want to use could be actually the business of running water, fresh water, mineral water. It will tolerate that kind of thing. You wouldn't leave it in there indefinitely. Certainly sunlight, moonlight works fine. I'd be mindful, as always in Australia, putting out a carnelian tumbled stone out the back at dawn, because the birds might go for it, because that's one of the things that gets a bit sparkly. I think I have lost a few tumbled stones to birds over the years. Also, I think if carnelian is left out and exposed to our harsh Australian sunlight, there's every possibility that it might fade. Because it's got the shiny appearance and all the rest of it, I think it would cope if you were the sort of person that was into putting your crystals onto salt. I don't think it would do any damage, but if you've done that and given it a try, let me know. Because I don't use salt. Okay, salt is something that I use not for crystals, but I will actually put into a room a bowl of rock salt as an environmental cleanser, just so that you know. That's just another thing. Somebody taught me to do it and put it in the bathroom years ago, so that's how I use salt. But you could also use your Palo Santo sticks, you could use your sage sticks, you can do incense, all of that kind of thing. If you do a lot of energy work, you can also have a candle going, or essential oils. If you can think of any other methods of clearing and cleansing your crystals, especially because this is the carnelian video, feel free to make mention. I actually think probably what I would do right now, the way I'm cleansing them, because I'm using a lot more of my crystals as I remind myself of their properties and get a feel for them again, is I've now got a couple of those nets that you get where you just pop your tumble in there. And you wear it around your neck, so it's a pendant. So I interchange. When I take one crystal out, I might put it on the selenite log, but other times, because I've got the selenite lamp towers, the 3 peaks, I call it. When I take my bracelets off, and I've got the carnelian ones here as well, I'll hang them over a point of the tower on the carnelian, on the crystal light, the selenite light. And the same with my pendants. If they're still in the little bag and I'm going to have a shower, because I don't wear them under the shower, I'll just take them off, pull them over the top of my head, and then hang them onto basically the selenite tower turret. And that's how I cleanse them, recharge them, and keep them ready for use. Oh, because the important thing with carnelian to be aware of is that it does, it's one of those crystals I refer to as being like a sponge. If you had a sponge and you were wiping down the bench, it picks and soaks up all the debris that's on the bench. If it's got a lot of water, you're going to need to wring it out. Well, carnelian's a bit like that. It picks up and soaks up energy, and it needs to be cleansed and cleared and wrung out so that it's ready for the next mop up, so to speak. Anyway, if you've got, as I say, any thoughts, tips, ideas, or suggestions, please do make a comment. Let us know. Certainly open to learning new information. Well, my friends, that's about as much as I can give you today. Oh my gosh, haven't I waffled on for this video? Just a reminder, I invite you to leave your own comments, your thoughts, your feedback, whatever. I value all of them. There is no such thing as negative criticism as far as I'm concerned. It's all positive. It's all an opportunity to grow. I also would like to wish you a very healthy, happy, safe holiday period. We're coming into the new year at the time this is loaded. So just remember, I've got content up to assist you to maximize the positive energy of 2025, okay? But for now, I'm going to say thank you for being part of my journey. Love you, leave you. Take care. Catch you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.